To skip or not to skip? That is the stubborn question that keeps raising its head. Preacher's interview with Jonathan was just one spark in a long line of fireworks around this topic. However, in the interview, Jonathan made his position pretty clear.
It will probably be a pretty cold day in hell. The very fact that it keeps on coming up means that it will just keep on getting discussed. And look, there may come a time when I understand like a way that I can become satisfied with to still achieve all of the goals that we have here. But it's certainly not just going to be, oh, you just skip straight to endgame once you've done it once.
There are two real points at the heart of this skip debate. The first concern is that the campaign is not fun, or it's just not good. And GGG have commented on this.
If there's anyone out there who prefers the PoE 1 campaign to PoE 2, which I really hope there isn't, because PoE 2 campaign is like way more awesome.
As a PoE disciple, like many of you, I do have faith that GGG will deliver on this promise to some success. The second point is that even if the campaign is fantastic and they deliver, that doing anything over and over again will eventually become boring. This, I think, is a fair concern, and in this video we'll explore some interesting ideas that may have the ability to solve that. To be perfectly clear, I am a pro-campaign player myself. I sit firmly in that camp. However, I am genuinely curious, what is it that people really want from this? And so I put the question out, and the poll results were very interesting. We put the poll up with 4 preferences as I see it. The first, that you want to skip the campaign. The second, that you wanted options to skip parts or find shortcuts through it. The third was that doing the campaign is completely fine, but we feel like we need a bit more variation and a bit more variety with each playthrough. And then the fourth, of course, being GGG know exactly what they're doing, it's part of PoE, and that's why we love it. So the elephant in the room, 12% wanted the ability to skip the campaign, which was actually higher than I expected. However, I am very curious to see what that number would look like once everyone's had a chance to get their hands on what GGG have been cooking up for nearly 7 years now. The largest group, at 36%, were actually those that sided with Jonathan. These are the PoE campaign grinders. They've got it down to a fine art, and they are very happy to continue doing it in PoE 2. The middle two options is where I think there's some interesting ground for some ideas that may be able to help the skippers convert, and also help the faithful 36% of campaign grinders enjoy it that little bit more. Let's take a look at the more variety group, the I don't mind replaying, but with a little bit more variety, please. Of course, repetition can become tedious, and so how could GGG combat it? We already have a built-in element of randomness. Did you drop a tabula on the beach? Does your build deal better with this boss, this act, or that zone, etc, etc? And this challenge variance is going to be much bigger in PoE 2 gameplay, with more enemy variety and more boss variety. At Exilecon 2019, the devs shared that they want the players to have a greater sense of randomness and more freedom when they're going through the campaign and making choices, as we've seen with Act 2, where the player can choose where they want to drive the caravan, or in Act 4, where the player gets to choose which island they want to conquer and in what order. Just how deep these choices run is yet to be seen. Perhaps this goes beyond simply which order you complete the quests in each act, but actually culminates in multiple ways to complete the campaign, with alternate endings, with their own boss variations, and maybe even their own starting point in the endgame. Imagine the bandit quest taken to a level of epicness where you actually get to decide which of the campaign villains or protagonists you side with and choose to destroy the others. It's a little crazy, I know, but this is GGG, and they have been known to give us a few surprises.
Well, that feels amazing.
Okay, now for a different take, and an idea that is personally most exciting to me. They mentioned that the new permanent boss drop buffs may vary from league to league to add some variation of which boss you want to hunt down, which is worth going out of your way off the beaten path and seeking out for that +5 attributes or that specific resistance you're lacking. However, what I really want to explore here is the idea of each league bringing new thematic changes to the campaign in keeping with the new league's concept. In PoE 2, we can see that the new league mechanics are much more closely tied to the plot of the campaign. We'll likely gain access to incursion by helping Alva in the temples, as we saw in the gameplay demo at Exilecon, and Delirium has been confirmed to be introduced to us, somehow involving the questline that takes us to fight Captain Heartland. What if with each new league we have a series of changes to the campaign and quests that introduce the new league's mechanic to us throughout the series of the campaign? Imagine in Affliction League that the King of the Mists would appear out of the Wildwood in our first encounter with the Blackfist boss, performing a ritual with wisps and transforming the boss into a Wildwood empowered version of it. Then maybe in Act 2, as we are travelling through the caverns, the environment suddenly changes to the Wildwood and we're confronted by one of the Azmiri Wanderers who gives us our first task to delve deeper into a Wildwood zone. You can imagine how this could evolve. With each new league, there's an opportunity to tell a deeper story between how the new league concept ties into the campaign and the other league mechanics. Now let's look at a more nuanced example where, say, Harvest is introduced to us in one of the acts. Perhaps that Harvest campaign quest or boss has been overrun by the Wildwood and the Wisps, and we learn more about the relationship between the Wildwood and the Sacred Grove as we got hints to in Affliction. This would allow us to have immersive, evolving and story-driven exposure to the new league and its lore. It would also, most importantly for this video, mean that each league that we play through, we are experiencing something fresh and new for the campaign. Now, of course, this is way more work and dev time than just creating the NPC, building the league mechanics, and then dropping that NPC outside Lion Eye's watch at the beginning of the game and saying, hey, here's the new thing. However, as Jonathan said in a recent interview, once you have the blueprint for something, it becomes a little bit easier to produce that content going forward.
Once you have a blueprint for something, and you don't need to do much design, it is so easy to get a team of people to just work on that.
The campaign is a great example of this. It's already got the structure, and so you're tweaking certain elements and flavoring those certain elements, still keeping the same main story, but just adding these interesting twists that are relevant and thematic for the new league. Plus, come on, how fun would it be for the devs if every 3 months they got to look at this amazing thing that they've crafted for such a long time and go, actually, what if we did it this way? And this time we're going to try something different because this concept makes so much sense for that bit of the story. They've got this amazing opportunity then to constantly surprise us with each new league. Before we discuss the shortcuts option, think how this campaign evolution idea could be taken to the nth degree with the end of year content expansion that we usually get in December. Perhaps alongside giving us a endgame expansion, each year they also give us a expanded campaign, though this time not adding acts and making the campaign longer, but instead increasing its breadth. A girth expansion, if you will.
Nice.
So they add a new interesting mechanic to the caravan and the movement of the caravan in Act 2. They add new routes into the map, and depending on which you take, you get new quests, or you get a different boss or a different version of the boss at the end of the act. This could also simply just be improving and making changes to things that they feel hasn't particularly aged well as the game's developed, just like they always wanted to do with the earlier acts in PoE 1. This is a solution to solving the problem of adding more interesting content to the campaign but not bloating it and then making more of a chore of it, and also ensures that the campaign remains fresh and stays modernized in the years and years to come for this newly dawning decade of PoE 2 glory. Alright, so let's look at the fourth option on our poll, which was allowing players to have alternate routes or shortcuts / mini skips through the campaign on their second and further playthroughs once they've completed it the first time in each league. This has very recently been popularized by Last Epoch. You gain keys throughout the campaign, and increasingly so at endgame. You can then use these keys to rush powerful, twinked characters through specific sections of the campaign. Now, the main concern that I personally have with this is that it is still about skipping content and sort of undermines the make it better philosophy. However, with over a quarter of the vote, at least in our poll anyway, this option is obviously very interesting to people and so is worthy of a discussion. So what sort of criteria would the best version of something like this have? I think the first thing is make sure it is woven into the story. If part of the problem with just skipping the campaign is that you lose out on that character journey, then having a button that says shortcut instead of skip would probably have the same negative effects. The second criteria would be to limit the amount that you can skip. Now, Path of Exile and Last Epoch are quite different in a couple of key ways as I see it, which is, first, PoE has a much stricter item level requirement on its uniques and its leveling gear. So in Last Epoch, basically whatever level you find an item at, you can upgrade that as much as possible and it will stay at that item level requirement. So this means that your potential for twinking out a character is much higher and you can have much higher powered starter builds. Now in PoE, you don't have that same early character power scaling, and so you can't really smash through the same kind of content. You're eventually going to hit a area level difficulty that you just can't scale through. On top of that, Last Epoch has a interesting and I think pretty cool side quest system where you gain your idle slots and your skill books, essentially, your extra passive points, flexibly. So there is a ton of different side quests and you only have to complete a certain number of those to unlock all of your idle slots and all of your passive points. For PoE, as we understand it, this is not the case. You have to do very specific quests to get very specific things, and this is going to be even more true with the areas that you don't want to skip because you want to kill that boss and get that permanent upgrade from it. With those two criteria in mind, we obviously know very little about the PoE 2 campaign right now and how it's going to function, what level we're going to be at when, how long it's going to take. And for all of those reasons, it's really hard to say if something like skipping sections could work. My best bet right now would be that something like this would almost certainly not be a choice or a first go-to option for the GGG team. We know how they feel about skipping the whole campaign, and so skipping parts of it, especially something they've just worked on for a very long time, I can imagine would probably be a bit of a last resort for them. So my thought for this option in the poll is you're probably not going to get it at launch. You almost certainly won't get it for beta, and if it is going to come, it will probably be a bizarre scenario where somehow PoE 2's campaign is worse than PoE 1, the whole player base or a large portion of the player base just don't like it, and so late into maybe 2025 they decide that okay, we've tried everything, we've tried to address this, we're going to have to look at other options. My take is that it is going to be epic and it is going to, just like the PoE 1 campaign, evolve, change and last us for up to a decade. Now, obviously I am fully coped up and I am sitting on the hype train waving my hat out the window, so please take everything I say with a massive pinch of salt. For me, the campaign in PoE represents the roleplay in the action role-playing game. Bear in mind I am the sort of person that names my characters as if they were real people in the world, and I try to maintain this idea, this childlike imagination idea that this is a person that has actually been exiled from Aurea and has to find their way through this new confusing world and this new confusing path upon which they tread. The Path of Exile. It's a bit poetic, I know, but for me that time in the campaign is about building that relationship with the character and sort of discovering who they are and how it feels to play them. Not only mechanically with all of the skills and build choices, the passive points, and on top of that all of the items and the crafts that I get lucky with, but also the story element. It's like what journey you go on with that character as you play them. Like what bosses did you die against? What weird scenarios did you find yourself in? Or what strongbox did you open and explode and think, oh, what an idiot, right, okay, I've got to run through that whole zone again. Or hardcore, obviously that character is literally dead. But what do you think? I'm genuinely curious to hear your ideas and maybe find out if any of the ideas in this video sort of tickled your pickle. And talking of ideas, we have tons of fun stuff coming up on the channel. Ascendancy Battle number 2 is happening with Talkative Try after my shameful but definitely not a landslide defeat to him last time. On top of that, I have a new Ascendancy class design for PoE 2 that is going to be dropping before the GGG live show this week. And God, the new league start is coming, which is hype. I am super excited, and I may actually, for the first time, stream some PoE. I know this sounds crazy. I'm a PoE channel, and I have never streamed Path of Exile before. But I mean, I've only been going in a few months, and the past few months, I guess actually I'll just say, yeah, like the past few months have been a bit of a whirlwind, and they've just been amazing. So I want to really thank you for watching, and if you've subscribed, I'm just really grateful. We've gone from like 0 subscribers to over 700 now in such a short time, and I've been pretty overwhelmed and definitely surprised by all of the amazing feedback. And I started making these because I just wanted to have some fun making some ascendancies, and we were so dry on PoE 2 information that I thought, oh, I'll just put something out there, maybe a couple of people will watch it, you know. Genuinely thought that, I'm not just saying that, and had 0 expectations. And then just you guys have been so good, like commenting, getting involved, liking the video, sharing it. Other creators have sort of got in touch, and that's been amazing. Playing the game for so long and then getting to meet other creators. So yeah, we're just working it out as we go, really, and it's just a fun, interesting journey. So I'm really curious to hear what you want. I definitely would love to play the game on stream and give it a try, but I'm not like I'm not a absolute legend at the game like some of the best people. I don't blast really. I'm a bit of a like slower kind of gamer, as you guys have probably worked out. I like to enjoy the art and the design, and I like to talk about stuff. And so I was thinking maybe like a mix of, before the GGG live show, we'll get a new Ascendancy class out, but then before the actual league launch, we could do like a few hours beforehand where we've got our build and we do some sort of character art for it, and then whilst we're waiting to get in, and then we'll just blast. And like, I don't know, maybe even do like a like a little subathon thing, or I have no idea how to build a Twitch channel and all that sort of stuff, you know. At least on here I just get to make videos, and it's like, what cool video am I thinking about at the minute? What do I want to make next, you know? Thank you very much for watching, as always, friends, Exiles. I will see you in the next one. Ta-da.